Is sponsored by Tom Toole III. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. She's Stacey Mitchell. And we've got a two-man film crew in here today because we're just trying some stuff out. And we got someone zooming in later about cryptocurrency, which we'll talk about. So, again, we all work with the Tom Toole Sales Group, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and Delaware since 2018. And we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Just Google Tom Toole Sales Group. So, ladies, how are you today? Happy second week of January here.
Yeah, doing good.
Excellent.
Well.
So let's get into the news. This was some pretty splashy stuff here that came out last week. And if you don't follow real estate, Ryan Gorman, the CEO of Realogy, and Realogy, to give some perspective, is the parent company for firms like Coldwell Banker or Century 21. He came out last week and said that the National Association of Realtors should end the requirement that listing brokers have to offer a commission to buyers brokers in order to submit listings into the MLS. This has been a hot topic for a while, coming from a company whose clients are basically other real estate agents. What do you think about this?
Pretty controversial, that's for sure. So my first thought was, then why would we have an MLS? Basically, it would just turn into a free-for-all portal, right? Because basically it's exclusive at this point. So if you're not going to cooperate, then it just becomes, open forum listings. So the other problem I have with this is it's such a tough market right now for buyers anyway. It's so incredibly difficult. Multiple offers, going over asking price, waiving inspections, things like that. If you're going to have to, as a buyer's agent representing the buyers, and if they're on a very fixed budget in certain areas where there's not a whole lot of inventory to choose from to begin with, you're going to also be asking the buyers to pay for, the buyer commission for representation. It could really exclude and knock a lot of potential buyers out of the market. And that's a real concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think it opens the door for a lot of confusion. And if some listings on there have the compensation, others don't. Some say, the sellers are covering it. Some say they're not. Like it creates a lot of confusion and makes it difficult for, I don't know, like filter wise, I'm sure they'd have to set something up in there to, filter these different ones out so that you would know as you're sending to them, because this could affect price points. Like this could just really create a lot of confusion. If it's, it should either be one way or the other. Like it doesn't make any sense to do some in between.
And what he said in the interview is that he wasn't saying ban it. He wanted it to make it optional. And and I've seen Ryan Gorman speak before, and he went further and said the best thing for a seller in every case that I can imagine, meaning him, is to offer compensation for the good work that buyers agents will do to bring a buyer in to facilitate the transaction. So it sounds like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth here very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
My observation, and there's a bigger issue here, to me, this is Realogy coming out and saying, hey, NAR DOJ lawsuit, I support what's going on. We don't want to be part of a monopoly. Because if he's saying, well, they should pay for the good work, but it should be optional. Well, an agent could co-op a home at $1 in the MLS right now. That sounds pretty optional to me. I mean, that to me, I wouldn't be too excited. And to your point, Stacey, all that does is it makes the MLS just another portal, and it loses a lot of value. Where now there's rules and regulations that if a commission is being offered at least on our local MLS in Bright, the buyer's agent is entitled to that, and they're accepting that. So, knowing that's the case, I mean, do you envision other companies coming out and saying this? I mean, do you see other, like a RE/MAX or a Keller Williams or whomever come out and say that? And then we can talk about kind of the what that means for consumers and what it means for agents as well.
Well, I would hope that other companies would come out in support of keeping the MLS intact the way it is. That's what I'm hoping for.
Right. And I mean, I think like there's different sides to this, but in order for like the sales end, the seller, for this transaction to make it to the settlement table, you have to have a buyer. So especially as you already touched on, Stacey, like in this market, it's already tough on buyers. Like adding this additional piece in, it just, I don't know. I don't like it.
Well, and in a lot of cases, and I want this to come off the right way, when a seller's paying a commission, I mean, they don't actually like write that check. Like it's in an asset that's a fixed it's a non-liquid asset that is appreciated over time. And certainly to your point, Sarah, I mean, right now buyers, I mean, they've already got to waive inspections in a lot of cases. It takes on a ton of risk. They have to make up appraisal gaps. So their lender's saying, hey, I'm only going to lend you X amount, even though you agreed to pay Y. And that can be, in some cases, 20, 50, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then on top of that, now you got to pay your agent another commission, whatever that rate is, because we're not going to talk about specific rates here for a lot of reasons. This is going to put a lot of pressure on buyers. And think about what's happening now, what we've been talking about for the past couple of months. Rates are going up. So now it's more expensive to buy a home on a monthly payment. It's more expensive to buy the home from a cash out of pocket perspective. What I find a hard time with is that this is the CEO of a company that employs real estate agents. So does he actually believe in the concept of realtors, or is this just pandering for the DOJ?
Right. Well, and I mean, you could find yourself in a really unfortunate situation as a seller if you were selling and buying and you got hit on both ends, meaning that you listed it on the MLS and put a buyer's agent compensation in there that you're paying. And then on the home that you go to buy, you find one that you really like, yada, yada, and it's not included in that. And then you find yourself having to pay for that transaction as well. I mean, that's just unfortunate.
That could be something I never thought of there.
So why even say this, though? I mean, because he comes out later in the article and says, I think cooperation is extremely beneficial and has been unlocking home ownership for tens of millions of Americans, for ensuring adequate representation, and trusted advisors are working on both sides of the transactions. Then he says, I personally think the value is extremely high and there's not a need for a mandatory requirement, but I understand the view that certain rules around cooperation can be really helpful for ensuring the market operates efficiently. And I appreciate the perspective. And then I personally think the value is extremely high and will continue to stay high. So, I mean, is this even like an article? Like, he's not saying anything here. I don't understand the point of this other than pandering to the DOJ. And maybe, like, do you ever see when these companies start to get, like, they get called in front of Congress and they have to testify?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is this where this is going? Because I kind of wonder that, because this article here makes literally no sense. It's like, well, I don't think it should be mandatory, but I agree with it in principle. Well, then it's either one or the other. And, to me, that's for the kind of agents that Realogy attracts. They're not getting discount agents. They're not a Redfin. They're not one of these companies where it's a limited service brokerage. I know some really high performing agents that work in the high end in Beverly Hills and Hoboken, New Jersey, that work with Realogy companies. So I just don't understand this.
Maybe he was just seeking some attention. It was just a way to, get people to pull into this article and just to bring light to him and his firm. I mean, that could be. People have motivation. They do things for different motivations.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, he's so back and forth. And I mean, I felt like at one point in the article, he was saying something about this could protect splits that aren't very fair to the buyer's agent. Well, how about like no split at all? Like,
Exactly.
it's kind of all over the place.
Well, and that's another point too, because, and we can talk about that in a second here, because there has been a trend that I've seen that listing agents tend to keep more of the commission, or the sellers opt for the listing agents to keep more, because whether we like it or not, and I've worked with buyers, you all have worked with buyers, some of these people working with buyers are literally in the right place at the right time, catch a lead, and that person would have bought that home no matter who they talked to. Could have been Stacey, and you could have been, and that's a result of your hard work. Could have been some agent who's out of the business now, and they happen to sell that one particular home no matter what. So, my view is that, I mean, from the agent perspective, if you got the CEO of a major company coming out and saying this, if I was an agent, which I am, I'd be looking at, how do I generate my own business? How do I work my sphere? How do I take listings at a high level? Because that gives you all the control when you're reliant on someone offering out the right commission or not. I mean, it's almost like when your client's interested in a for sale by owner. and you're like, okay, now I got to deal. And you guys have both worked with FSBOs. I mean, it's that's pretty challenging, and there's no one on the other side, and then you're constantly having to justify your value, even though you're really doing the job of two agents,
Right.
not one, because they don't have someone advising them. So, to me, this is really irresponsible, especially for the CEO of a publicly traded company.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
So, you want to hear some agent reaction from this?
Yes.
This is going to be the fun part, and then we can talk about what it means for the market. So, a day after, this was on January 7th, the day after Realogy publicly called for NAR to end mandatory commission sharing, Rhode Island-based broker owner Greg Dantis wrote, cooperation was the original premise of the MLS. Otherwise, it's a Porto, and that's Zillow's game, set, match. What do you think about that reaction?
Yeah, I think it's pretty spot on for sure.
Well, tell us more. Why is it spot on?
Well, because then if there's no compensation for buyers, they're going to everybody's going to reach out to the listing agents directly. So, no compensation for the buyer's agent. I'm sorry. Everybody's going to reach out to the listing agent. This is definitely going to be really bad for buyers. If buyers are going to reach out to listing agents and get under contract, they don't have their own representation in essence. So, and this was the whole reason why there were class action lawsuits in the first place for representation for buyers, because they were getting, there was a lot of nefarious things going on and buyers were getting hurt. So that's why you have to have representation if you're a buyer. You want your own representation, I should say. It's tough. I mean, it happens in some remote areas. There's definitely dual agency that goes on. But this opens up the door for a lot of really bad things to happen, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And to take a line from Tom, I mean, as we know, if you reach out directly to the listing agent, it's like working with your wife's or husband's divorce attorney, reaching out to them. You have to have somebody looking out for you and advising you specifically.
Well, and I what I see happening here, and I love that because that's so true. And everyone kind of laughs at that line, but I don't think anything sums it up any better than that. Because I mean, I just it's the complete opposite. And while some transactions go well, other transactions it gets pretty nasty with the people, and they have all these preconceived notions, and they say tell the buyer to stick it where and all this other stuff. I mean, it gets off the rails pretty quick. So I do agree with you there. Another agent from Illinois, Jeff, I'm going to probably butcher this guy's name, Jeff Olikwer, he says, what Gorman is presenting is the worst of both worlds. It'll make it more confusing for the consumer. It'll make it more difficult for buyer broker representatives. Buyer brokers are already getting bad commission splits, and they can not be negotiated by the buyer. What do you think there?
Yeah, I totally agree. Buyers a lot of times are very confused about how the transactions work also. And we come across buyers who reach out, who want to talk to listing agents, and they don't quite understand. When we shed light on it and they understand. They don't want to hire their ex-wife's divorce attorney or whatever. So they understand how important it is, because real estate transactions can go sideways very quickly. So you do have to have somebody on your team, somebody on your side fighting for you. So yeah, I agree. It's really just presents a really bad situation all the way around.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. It's taking two pieces that are not benefiting the buyer and lumping them together there.
And that's the reaction from a lot of people. Another agent came out and said asking the buyer to pay for buyer agent's commission will make many buyers go directly to the listing agent and not use a buyer's agent. And that would eventually cause buyer agents to be non-existent, and the MLS will be only a portal. So we've kind of hit on that one. What do you see for the future of buyer agents here?
Well, if it goes away where it's not going to be, a shared commission with the listing agent, then buyer's agent, it's going to be really, really difficult. It will. I'm more concerned for the buyers out there. That's my concern. Especially, and I'll go back to, people who are just like, say you have a VA loan. You're working with a buyer that's VA approved. It's 100% financing. They have just enough money for a down payment. You're going to ask them to pay the buyer side commission also. It's just really, really tough. It could change their whole price point. They know the value of a buyer's agent to have that representation, but I think for the buyer, it just creates a lot more confusion, a lot more stress. They're going to need a lot more money to get into a home.
Right. And I mean, I think ultimately this is going to trickle down to affect the seller as well, who we've, talked a lot about how for sale by owners, a lot of times initially they think, oh, I'm saving by doing it this way. I'm not paying, these different commission splits and I'm able to save that money. But what we're able to bring to the table by having them work with us is bring in qualified buyers and bring in a smooth transaction and something that gets you to that settlement table. And ultimately they end up saving money by working with us and paying that commission. The same with, if you're not going to use a buyer's agent and people are just kind of coming in or going to the listing agent, I mean, I think that you're going to see a diluted pool of buyers. You're going to have people that don't have help going through this process. And if the ultimate goal is to get to that settlement table, you could have a lot of hiccups occur there where you would have been better off and had a smoother transaction had you just had the commission paid out to the buyer's agent.
So knowing that's the case, and you bring up a really good point, is that, you get someone that goes directly to the listing agent. They may not know what goes on. Mm-hmm. So looking at this, I mean, and talking about some of these agents that have kind of fallen into these transactions, I mean, when this moves forward, do you see like an increase in lawsuits? I mean, like, how do you see this playing out? Because we've already seen realtors sue agents based on not getting the property. Now, whether that's going to go anywhere or not, I think there's some question there. All it takes is one unhappy client. And right now, there's a lot of people that are getting frustrated with the market. So do you see if something like this happens, would there be more of this going on? And the flip side is, I mean, what is it going to be like being a listing agent? Are you more vulnerable when you're having to deal with this if they're going to just go around the buyer's agent altogether?
I guess it could potentially, as a listing agent, open you up to, potential lawsuits. But I agree that I think there will be more lawsuits. Buyers could hire attorneys to represent them, but again, it's more expense. So instead of getting a buyer's agent to represent them and paying a commission, then they can ultimately have their own attorney. But again, it's very, very expensive. And it could just rack up to exorbitant costs for them. But if they don't and they just agree to work with the listing agent, I do believe that opens up the area for lawsuits because it could be conceived that they were bilked out of certain things. If they don't quite understand contracts, it's not explained to them properly. I think it creates a lot of issues. We don't even know. We can't even think about what it could do at this point.
I mean, I think the real winner here is going to be the attorneys because they're either going to get extra business either from people using their attorney to go through the process, or when things don't go well, they're going to call their attorney and hire them that way. So they might be the winner.
Well, what's kind of interesting you say about that is that every state is different. So let's just talk about Pennsylvania, because I know in New York, like you need an attorney.
To have an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
In Northern Jersey, you do. Southern Jersey, you don't. So every state kind of differs. Anytime I've had an attorney get involved in a real estate transaction, you know what's happened?
Ooh.
The deal died, or it gets totally screwed up, or they make some interpretation about the contract that's the exact opposite of the PAR guidelines. And the value of transacting in a state like Pennsylvania is, like, I'm not an attorney. I know that agreement of sale backwards and forwards. I could tell you anything about it right now on demand, which both you guys have seen happen in real time, like catching me with my kids screaming at me in the background. So
True.
Look at line number 467. That'll explain it.
Right.
You bring up a great point. Like, I mean, I think this is a big win for attorneys if that happens. I mean, just imagine, because they're going to be the ones that, but like, think about it from another level. If a buyer insists on getting an attorney, is that going to hurt their chances of getting the house because they move so slow?
Right.
True.
I mean, these negotiations happen in like sometimes minutes. You have like 2 hours to do something.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you're getting an attorney to write a contract that fast.
Right.
Correct. Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. And I just, this whole thing that gets brought up, it's mind blowing to me. This is the CEO of a publicly traded company that owns real estate brokerages saying this.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine if we worked at that company? I would not be happy right now.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I think I'd be looking elsewhere.
So maybe we need to get some guests on from one of these companies. So that would be a pretty interesting one to talk about. So the last piece here is that there's actually an agent from Pennsylvania that that his name's John Rainville. He said that MLSs could eliminate this confusion regarding commissions with a database of buyer agency contracts. This is interesting. So the real item the MLS need to do is have a database of buyer agency contracts that is searchable so real estate agents can see if a buyer is already under agreement, just like a property listing. I see no issues with fees being attributed to who is actually paying them. What do you think about that?
It sounds confusing. So wait, so he's saying that you would every time that you work with somebody, you get them under your buyer agency contract, then that gets uploaded to
a database
that then who is searching to look at this? The seller?
Realtors.
Other realtors.
So
okay.
Eric and Sarah go sign a contract with Stacey, and now they search her name with, like, I'm matching an email address. Like, I think of our database, there's probably like a smart component to it, and they see they're under contract with Stacey, and then they can attribute the fees that way.
Ooh. Who's going to manage that database?
That sounds like a disaster to me.
It does. It does.
I like the idea, though, because think about the buyers that, you're under a listing contract. That's public knowledge. It's very clear how to do that. And this is a really good point that gets brought up here. I think about the buyers that call our office and say, oh, hey, can I go see this home? My agent's not available. Or, oh, hey, can I go see this home? And they don't even mention to you they have an agent, even when we ask them if they have an agent. And then you go to write an offer after you did all this work. Oh, by the way, I signed a buyer agency contract with somebody. They're going to be the ones representing me. I mean, that has some value and in a certain level, because I found that people don't value contracts as much as they used to. I mean, how many times do you see a consumer say, oh, we're just going to kill the deal, and there's no basis to do it? Or I went out of the agreement, even though it's a timed term. And this isn't just real estate contracts. This is everything.
Right.
So do you see any value in that to kind of protect this interest so we know who's actually being represented?
I see value in it as it pertaining to that. I just don't see. I mean, it just would be a huge undertaking, and I think it would add more confusion. Unless things can be updated constantly in real time, and I don't know. I just to me it seems too huge.
I'm still confused out. So even if you were to go in and search and see that they're under contract with somebody, how are they saying that's going to disperse? How the compensation
then there's a contractual agreement to pay. I mean, because the buyer agency contract says if this person buys a home, no matter what. So it lists if they buy it for sale by owner, if they buy a home on the MLS, they buy a home that's off market. All those things are implied there, and there's actually a rate that's agreed to. So it's identical to a listing contract in terms of it's an employment contract is what it is at a basic level.
Okay.
So you're saying no go. I'm hearing no go on this. Okay.
I'm saying no go on that.
All right. So before we wrap up here, what do you think this means for the market, for buyers and sellers? Is this something they're going to have to be aware of moving forward? Do you think buyers are going to have to be more aware of having to pay a fee in some cases? I mean, do sellers need to just are they ready to eliminate buyers agents? Where do you see this going from here?
I think buyers will come in the same way buyers always come in, because like half the time, even with it being as is, people don't know whether or not they're I mean, there's quite a few buyers that I've worked with where when I've told them, no, the commission is coming through the seller side, they're like, oh my gosh. And they had no idea. So I think it would just be on our end having to prep for what it looks like and how that could change things and how to best inform our clients.
Yeah, I agree. Some buyers have no clue when they're coming. They just want the house. They're, oh, can I see this house? And they might not have any idea how that whole operation works. So it definitely is up to us to stay on top of everything. For sellers, I think they really have to consider how they're going to sell their home and what's important to them, and understand the value of the buyer's agent, and understand that you could potentially be opening yourself up to more hassle, not only if you're considering a for sale by owner, but if you're, not going to offer any kind of buyer agent compensation. I think it's just a lot for the seller to consider, and how much they're willing to take on as far as marketing, vetting the buyers, going through the contracts, potentially hiring their own attorney, when they could just hire, a listing agent. But I think they really have to consider, sellers have to consider heavily how they want to list their home.
So here's my prediction, and then we'll take a quick break here. And we're going to come back and talk about cryptocurrency and real estate. This is quite the show here that we got. What I know is this: there are people out there, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with selling their home. They want to delegate it. They want to trust somebody to do it. The same thing. Those are the same people that when they have like a legal issue come up, they call their attorney and they say, "Hey, Mr. Attorney, handle this. Let me know when something's resolved." Right? Same people when they file their taxes, they give all their stuff to their accountant and they say, "Call me when it's done." Then there's the people that do TurboTax and they go to LegalZoom, and those are the folks that are probably going to be trying to save money on the transaction. A lot of times I find those are the folks that end up losing in the transaction, where they miss out on a house they want, or they leave money on the table, which is a big issue right now. So for the people that value professional services, I don't see the market changing at all. They're going to be happy to pay everybody involved as long as they get what they want and it's easy for them. If it's a stressful transaction or they're pinching pennies or something like that, those are the folks that might say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not offering out a buyer agent commission. I'm not doing that." And that's the same people that are always going to do it. And when the market changes, and when I say the market changes, inventory rises, you're going to see those folks come back to the other side and engage with realtors a little more, because it's happened throughout time. And I don't see that trend changing, because we all know you could be the smartest person out there and not know anything about real estate.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we're going to leave it there. We're going to take a quick break. We're coming back. We have Eric Crumbaker from CG Realtors in California. He's also a crypto expert and investor. And we're going to talk about how crypto and real estate might have like a crash course ahead of them here. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
The real estate market is red hot. Have you considered taking advantage? Call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX at 610-692-6976 or visit our website, tomtoole.com, to connect and take advantage of these market conditions.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
Mortgage America's equal housing limit, NMLS 12850.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
All right. We are back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. She's Sarah Tymon. We've got the two-man camera crew, Gabe and Nick, making it happen. We've got a live stream going on as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And we are about to welcome on Eric Crumbaker with CG Realtors and a crypto expert and investor. And before we have him come on again, we all work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and Delaware since 2018. Eric, can we hear you, man? Are you on the line here? There he is.
Hey, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. So we've got, we can't see you. We're on the radio here, but people still listen to that in Pennsylvania. I know you're out in California. So, Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background in real estate, your background investing in crypto, and then there's a lot of stuff we want to unpack with you here over the next half hour or so.
Perfect. How's it going? My name's Eric Crumbaker. I'm located in Claremont, California. Southern California, if anyone doesn't really know where that's at. Been in real estate a little over a decade, which I'm proud of. And been in crypto since about 2013. So I've been in crypto as long as I've been in real estate, to be honest.
Wow. So, I mean, there's so much to unpack with this because, my view is that this has been such a hot topic, and I know we've talked about it off air. So, I guess the first question we have is, for someone who doesn't understand crypto, doesn't understand NFTs, maybe just give the kind of quick minute or two breakdown. I read all the research, but I imagine a lot of the people in the audience don't know, and then we can kind of talk about how this might be in play for the real estate space as we move ahead here in 2022 and forward.
So that's a very broad question.
It was meant to be broad.
Okay, perfect. Well, there's a difference between cryptocurrency and NFTs. And for anyone who's not familiar with what crypto is or NFTs are or DeFi, I would just urge people to research these topics, and just like going to the gym or anything else, as you go down the rabbit hole, you learn more and more. But to distinguish the two between NFTs and cryptocurrency, they're vastly different. NFTs is a non-fungible token, and they are a one of one. Just similar to a baseball card. You have a baseball card. I have the one of a thousand. But that particular card is one of one. Cryptocurrency is a little more broad. So I could own a Bitcoin, sell a Bitcoin. You wouldn't know if it was mine prior. And that's the difference between an NFT and cryptocurrency.
Got it. So, and the point is to kind of educate people here pretty quickly. So I think that the big question I have is that, there was an article that dropped. It was actually today, and I think this is a good place to start. Is that it was on Market Watch, and they talked about that many Americans are using their they call them tendies. Maybe you know what that means. To tap into the American dream, and it doesn't look like things are stopping. Where people are actually using crypto to fund purchases, and they're relying on their earnings to do that, to come up with like a down payment, and it's a pretty complicated process. So if someone's sitting on X amount of cryptocurrency, is that something that they cash that in? Are they going to get taxed on that? Like, how do you see this all kind of playing out here? Because it looks like more and more people have invested in crypto instead of the traditional like stocks, bonds, real estate, those sort of bank assets that a lot of us are more familiar with and used to.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And actually, you went for a deep question right off the bat. When it comes to the tax equation, when it comes to cryptocurrency, a lot of that's still up in the air. The way they distinguish it right now is you get taxed on your purchase, you get taxed on your sell. And that's why between us, a lot of cryptocurrency is being hodled, and that's a term that a lot of people are in cryptocurrency use. They're just saving the cryptocurrency. They're not using it as a fiat or a mean of sell. There are people who do, but for the majority, until in the United States, until we figure out our tax code and how they view cryptocurrency, a lot of people right now are just holding it. As it comes into real estate, that's a completely different topic. And a lot of people right now are trying to purchase property for real estate. The reason I say real estate is because there's also real estate that you can purchase inside of Decentraland and Sandbox, which is a virtual reality. Am I confusing anyone yet?
How you ladies doing so far? You following all this?
So I heard that there was a huge real estate purchase in the metaverse recently, or a sale.
Yes.
So I do understand. Yes, thanks.
Okay, yes. It's crazy. I sent Tom Toole over a video clip yesterday from CNBC, and it was a stat from Sandbox, which is an artificial intelligence world, and they were selling islands for $15,000 a piece. In 2021, they sold 100 islands, and currently those islands are reselling for $300,000. So there's a huge land grab going on in this virtual reality of real estate. But how this transitions into real estate in the physical world, that is just something that's still being figured out. There are transactions that are being done between Bitcoin and Ethereum and transacting a real estate deal. There aren't a lot of brokers who support this yet, only because of the tax code. And that's why a lot of people who are really deep in cryptocurrency are moving out of the United States to more of a Puerto Rico place, because that's where the tax code's different and they're able to pull their money out and not be leveraged.
Do you see that? I mean, do you see this happening more and more? Because this is obviously like the hot investing space right now, and like anything else, I think the early adopters are going to do well, right? I mean, you look at what Bitcoin was. There was a tweet you sent me of some guy saying, "I'm glad I got out of Bitcoin like 10 years ago," and he would have made like millions of dollars. So, do you see like that ever changing? I mean, you're deep in this space because this is where a lot of people are parking their money right now. Selling a stock, you get cash right away, and there's they actually, the government does make it more favorable sometimes with some like trusts and different things. Crypto really hasn't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also a concern of mine as well in the ecosystem, because there's a lot of money being poured in, and there are, like anything that starts off new, there's fraudulent places to go to, there's hackers, and a lot of people who come in with money, they don't know where to put their money or exactly where to look, and they can be taken advantage of very easily. So I do think there is a permanent place for cryptocurrency. I wouldn't be invested like I am if there wasn't. And I do think, like you say, there's a lot of money being poured in through institutional buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And that really does solidify where this movement is going. I know if you were just to get into real estate, you don't really have a conviction or an understanding, or what's the term I'm looking for, confidence to put your money and watch it grow, because you don't really know how it works. And getting involved and doing the research, finding the right brokers to help you out, is going to be imperative for people who do want to park their money into a crypto ecosystem. But I do, Tom, because I do think this is our future. Actually, let me reframe that. I know this is our future. And for example, how this can solve problems is, let's just go back to the real estate transaction. I mean, as we all know, the transaction is convoluted. I mean, you have titles talking to escrow, talking to sales reps, talking to admins. You're using 4 different platforms. You're using paper still. You're sending, you're emailing, you're faxing. So what crypto does to mitigate all this is it can take the entire transaction and put it onto one smart contract, where everyone has clear communication on where this deal is in this timeline. That has not been created yet, and it's what's been working on. So it has to solve a problem for it to be bigger and be adopted, and that's just one of 1,000 problems that cryptocurrency is solving.
So talk a little bit about what a smart contract is. I mean, I literally just Googled it when you said it, and so like it looks like it's something that's like it self-executes because it's written in the lines of code. What does that mean for the consumer, or could you explain that more in like a fourth grader would understand, because that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, it's a fancy term. A smart contract doesn't mean anything smarter than anything else. It's just a term that they devised for something to be written on a blockchain. So most smart contracts are written on an Ethereum blockchain because it's a decentralized market. Got
it. Okay. So, and I know the ladies have a couple questions here. They can jump in a second. With, one of the things I've heard, I was listening to a Chris Smith podcast, and he talked about, you mentioned NFTs, which are like one of one, and that some of these, right now this would be illegal to do. But if homes were sold as NFTs, like where they, there's an interest that's paid to the person who sells it originally. Think of like Michael Jordan's home, right? Like very unique, very specific. You probably have a lot more of those. Do you see anything in the future when it comes to NFTs being sold as properties, or that even being legal right now? Because I know in Pennsylvania that wouldn't be the case. Because I know that I've gotten this question more the past 3 months than I've ever even heard before. Is that how do you attach an NFT to a home sale?
So I think maybe what the confusion might be is tying the NFT to the physical asset. So an NFT would be a virtual token of, or a piece of art of the virtual home. So in our reality, it's a rendering of the front of the house or a walkthrough of the home, because you could have virtual NFTs where you're walking through an NFT, kind of like if you're in the home,
Got
like
it.
a Matterport, so to speak. The problem and concern I have with NFTs, because I'll be honest with you, this is why I think there's concerns in the market, because there are NFTs and there's things being created everywhere. The problem with NFTs tying to a physical asset is you can create numerous NFTs of one asset. So, for example, Tom, you own a home. I can create an NFT off the Ethereum blockchain with this beautiful rendering of your home built by an artist that I had create the NFT. And then you can go and get another artist and have him create another NFT of the same house that I just had another artist do. So I, to this day, have a concern with NFTs in real estate. Only thing that I can see possible is kind of like when a closing happens, you can get a painting of someone's house and you can deliver that as a package. Well, get an NFT created, which is one of one, and you can deliver that to them as a closing gift. But
Okay.
as a form of an asset that can take on in the future and gain value, I just don't see it yet.
Well, and I think where we're going with this is that it's almost like it has to be a really unique property. It can't be like the same home in the subdivision that everybody else has, but they actually like attach that to title, and it becomes it's non-fungible when it attaches. And it's a little different. It's more the theory behind it, but I don't know that would be legal right now. The way title insurance gets conveyed, you have to have that good and marketable interest in the property. So that's something that I've heard people talk about or ask how they can do, like a waterfront property, right? Like same kind of thing. It's got to be pretty unique. But you're basically saying I don't see it happening, or you got some concerns, is what I'm hearing you say.
I see it more as a gift than I do as an asset.
Got it. Okay.
Like, what do you do with it once you have it?
So
like,
I
you
mean,
look at it?
Exactly.
Interesting.
So
This is where
for example,
keep going.
People are so when I say you look at it, so for example, you can go onto Samsung.com right now and they have a new type of TV that sits on your wall. It looks identical to a piece of art. You couldn't even tell it's this thin, and you can display your NFTs. You can display your art. So when you have a Bored Ape or an NFT of your past homes that you purchased, let's say, like you said the waterfront home, you're proud of it, but you sold it, but you're 60 years old and you want to own it. You could have your NFT displayed on one of your walls in one of your rooms as a bragging, so to speak. I own that home. And then maybe in the future, like you said, you can tie a particular home through title to only one NFT designer. And if the home does sell and they choose to sell the NFT with the home, there could be an asset devised off that.
Does that make more sense? It's basically a piece of art is what we're talking, and it's unique.
Yeah,
it can't be
unique.
Well, I mean, I equate this to art, Eric, and if if I'm wrong, please tell me. But it's like when they have to get someone to come in and authenticate the painting and make sure the painting's real and it's done by the artist. This is an easier way to do it because of the unique the digital asset accompanying it.
Yeah, it's tied to the creator or the seller. And another thing about NFTs, just so you guys know, is let's say Tom owns the NFT. And then Sarah owns the NFT after, and then Stacy owns it after her, and then I own it number 4. All 4 of you would get paid on that transaction for every sell.
Yep.
It never disappears. And another thing is when it comes to the art is, like Kings of Leon, they're creating an NFT for their music sector, and how they're doing it is when you buy the NFT, you purchase their album. And what they can do with the NFT is they can allow a certain amount of people who might have purchased it first. They get front row tickets to 3 of their shows. So you can tie these NFTs to a number of different things.
Well, and there's a lot of communities based around those, right? Like Gary Vaynerchuk's doing the same thing, where he has a specific And he's probably had one of the more popular ones that have taken off. We've seen, I mean, I know you and I have talked that we've seen some kind of crash and not do well, but he has like a conference at Minnesota Vikings Stadium, US Bank Field, the next 3 years. If you own one of those NFTs that he sold, then you have automatic access. That's the only way to get in. And you see more and more. It's like a community aspect too.
And an
I
NFT
do see more and more.
Other than just an image, an NFT can be anything.
A digital.
That is correct.
Digital. Okay.
Got it.
Multiple case scenario.
That make more sense? I know we're trying to educate everyone here. This is like this is probably the most complicated conversation we've had.
It's a lot.
So I'm going to switch gears. I got one question for you here. So last year in 2021, the end of 2021, the city of Miami proposed allowing people to pay property taxes with cryptocurrency. And then shortly after that, there was a penthouse that sold to an anonymous buyer for $28 million paid in crypto. What do you think about all this? Are we going to see more of this stuff?
100%. As it gets more adopted, you know, at the end of the day, crypto is only 13 years old. We just celebrated the 13th birthday last week of all of cryptocurrency. It's so relatively new, and the wealthy are diving into it. You look at actors, you look at celebrities, you look at hedge funds, you look at billionaires and millionaires. They're all allocating a portion of their portfolios into some type of cryptocurrency, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be last to the party, even if you don't know what type of party it's going to be.
So what do you've been doing this for a while. So what, I mean, someone comes to you and say, Eric, I want to invest in crypto, or I want to diversify my portfolio. What kind of advice do you have for them?
So
Eric is not an investor, by the way. He's not a financial investor. Let's just be very clear. He invests in crypto, but is not certified to do this, just so we don't get sued later.
None of what I say is financial advice.
Yes, yeah, there we go. I like it.
I'm very simple when it comes to cryptocurrency, because I have parents and I have relatives who don't really understand what I'm talking about as well. So if I'm having a first conversation with anyone off the bat and they have interest into this world, I tell them the first two things they need to do is just buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then from there, you just do a little bit of research of what you purchased. And then you're going to go down a rabbit hole of figuring out what you just purchased, what a decentralized environment is, what NFTs are, and you're going to get just more entrenched, and you're going to learn.
Got it. So, I mean, so how does someone go about learning more? I mean, it's a lot of like research and all that. I mean, are there any, I know you've told me about like some different apps that you recommend or different things. Like where would you start if you want to learn more about this and, you know, kind of get up to snuff here? Because I mean, what I see happening is this, and you look at the Staples Center in LA, right? It's not the Staples Center anymore. It's the Crypto.com Center. The Philadelphia 76ers used to be sponsored by StubHub. They're now sponsored by Crypto.com. It's right on their jerseys. Matt Damon is doing Crypto.com commercials. So, I mean, this is...
Crypto's big in boxing.
Yeah. I mean, in boxing, yeah, Stacey's a huge boxing fan, apparently. I did not know that. So we're seeing this come mainstream, and so people still don't understand how to, like, learn more about it. So knowing what you know now, where would you start to try to understand if this is something you want to get into, if you want to look at this as an investment strategy, or see how it's going to translate into real estate?
Well, let me ask you guys a question. What do you guys know about gold?
Ladies?
It used to be a very secure place that people would purchase gold for stability, you know, to have part of their retirement fund. So they would purchase gold.
That's correct. You probably know as much about gold as I do.
I don't know how much you know about.
In all reality, I don't know a lot about gold. But how that transitions into Bitcoin is a lot of people don't know about Bitcoin, but they still purchase gold and they still purchase Bitcoin. I think you just kind of get into the asset, and then from there you kind of understand what the asset is, because a lot of people just buy gold and they don't know why they're buying gold. But in all reality, gold serves a huge purpose in our world. Your cell phones, your jewelry, you know, electricity, infrastructure, almost everything that we use uses some type of gold. But a lot of people don't know that. That's why people invest.
I actually met a young gentleman who was helping me set up my cell phone. And it was interesting because he was about 23 years old, and he was telling me that because he knew I was in real estate, and he was telling me that he purchased a coin, some odd coin. Anyway, he made about $19,000 on it, and he was going to just let it sit there and ride a little bit because he wanted to then liquidate it to buy a house. So I think it's becoming more commonplace, especially with the younger people. They're very comfortable with it. They're comfortable with the electronics, um, and they see it as an avenue for them to be able to make money to use for other things, for them to advance.
That is
What's your thought on
100%
that?
correct. I think that thought is what all the millennials and this new younger generation views cryptocurrency. And really quickly to backtrack on Tom, where to find the education. This is going to trip everyone out. Twitter is what I use for a lot of my information on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, Ethereum. The ecosystems behind cryptocurrencies is what pushes each token or each coin, and that's what gets the coin more relevant within the community.
Interesting. Got it. And so, and talk about like a wallet and like all that stuff too, because I think people don't realize you need to, like, if you can't just go buy a Bitcoin like tomorrow. There's a whole process here. So if you wanted to go buy cryptocurrency, what's the process? What would you do?
You can buy it right now. You guys literally can buy cryptocurrency right now. You could download an app, and you could probably purchase a full Bitcoin in a matter of 25 minutes.
So I kind of feel like I missed the Bitcoin like time period for when you should go in and like, you know, all these people that like made money off of it and yada yada. Are you saying it's still a good thing to go get right now?
Currently, right now, especially at it trading at about $40,000, I always think Bitcoin's a good investment. I'm in the camp that I feel we're so new into this. I don't have the statistics. And I'm sorry I didn't bring them up, but the amount of users that are in cryptocurrency is so small versus the population of the world. It's only going to get more adopted. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, is cheap. Ethereum is cheap. I think all the coins across the board, if they have a good utility, are really cheap. Only because there's not a lot of people actually using it. A lot of people are just talking about it.
So when you say good utility, I read the article you sent. I understand what that means. Can you explain it for the listeners? Because, I mean, most people, they've heard of Bitcoin because of the Jim Cramer story that he paid off his house with it last year. Ethereum a little bit because I think that's obviously one of the more popular ones, especially with a lot of these NFTs. But past that, I don't think a lot of people really understand. So what does utility mean?
So utility is just like a form of currency. It serves a purpose. So a non-utility token is what everyone talks about. You have the Dogecoin, the Shiba Inu, all these coins that are just meme coins that are designed off an animal of some sort. Those don't serve a purpose. You can't do anything except collect those, and as they rise in value, because more people buying on that trend, then they sell. I know there's some talks about Elon Musk allowing you to buy a Tesla with Dogecoin. None of that has ever come to fruition. A good utility coin, for example, I'm going to use Voyager, for example. You can download. They're like Coinbase, but it's its own version. It's called Voyager, and you can buy their native token. And the utility behind this token is, the more tokens I have, I earn more interest on the other coins that I have on the platform. So if I own Bitcoin or if I own Ethereum and I own like 500 Voyager coins, I will get a higher interest holding Bitcoin on that platform. And what crypto and these new platforms are doing to edge people off of regular banks is that they're offering higher interest that your banks are offering you, tying that to a debit card. So your bank will maybe offer you 2%. Voyager will offer you 12%.
Wow. Are you seeing a lot of users increase because of that interest rate offer?
It's funny. They Voyager's a new company. They're only 1 year old. That's why I am tied in with them. I'm one of their first investors. And they went from 43,000 users last December to 1.3 million last week.
Big delta there, man. That's interesting. So we got
pretty big delta.
What do we got? We got 2 minutes left here. So before we tell everyone where to find you, how to connect with you, Eric, anything else you have that you want to share regarding cryptocurrency, real estate, or just what people should know about? Because I hear so many people talk like they know what's going on in crypto, and you're one of the few people I know that does. So and any parting shots here before we wrap up?
The honest truth of cryptocurrency, the longer you're in it, the easier it is, like anything in this world. Most people are in this new cryptocurrency trend started in 2020, and they can't stomach the crazy ups and downs. But if you've been in it since 2013, this is all normal. But it doesn't act like regular equities or stocks. It's more volatile. But if you look at the lifespan at a 30,000 view, it's all worth it.
Love it. So where can people find you, Eric? I mean, this is very informative. I learned a lot. I've got all these mental notes here I'm going to be jotting down to try to understand all this. So where can people find you and where can they follow you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm very easy. I don't have any crazy names. It's Eric Crumbaker with a C, Crumbaker. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, my friend. We really appreciate it. This was one of the more informative segments we've had on the history of the show. We're also a young show, much like Voyager. Less than a year, but we're getting there. So thanks for coming on, man. I'll let Nick kind of take it from here. And this is a wrap this week for Toole Time Real Estate Radio. If you got a question, email us. It's info@tooletimeradio.com. You want to follow Sarah? She's on Instagram at Ty_TyTime, TY_TYTIME. You can follow Stacey at the number 2, Mitchco 2, MITCHCO. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD, at Tom Toole the Third, all on Instagram. Again, we work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and Delaware since 2018. And you can follow the show live every week on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. This is WWDB 860 AM.